Hello, everyone. Welcome to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at The Giver, Chapter 11. Now, in this chapter, it starts off with Jonas receiving his first memory, and it's of snow, which most of us have experienced. But for Jonas, this is the first time, and it kind of goes through the description of what it's like to feel the tingle of cold and to see his breath and all of these different things to see the snowflakes falling from the sky until eventually he's going down the hill and he's on a sled and he's whoosh, going fast over the snow and then stopping at the end. And all of this is really exciting because Jonas has never seen a hill even. At first he thought it was like a mound, but then he realized it was a hill and didn't know the word for sled, and then it kind of comes to him that this is a sled, and he's learning all this stuff as he's experiencing this memory. It's pretty exciting. After the memory ends, the giver's kind of like, okay, how do you feel, right? He just wants to make sure everything worked okay, and Jonas is like, that was awesome! Why don't we have... Oh, suddenly, Jonas starts asking questions again. Or he starts asking questions. He didn't ask questions before, but he starts asking, why don't we have snow anymore? Why don't we have hills? Why don't we have sleds? Why don't we have these things? And the giver talks a little bit about climate control, and now it's easier to have things the same more. And then Jonas is like, well, oh, man, can you give me... Oh, sorry, this is important. Because the giver says that giving that memory to Jonas, he feels lighter. And Jonas is like, what do you mean? You don't have that memory anymore? And we learn that the giver was actually taking out one of his memories and giving it to Jonas. So now the giver doesn't have that memory. Or old man, we learn at the end of the chapter he's called the giver. The old man doesn't have that memory anymore. He's given it to Jonas. And Jonas feels a little sad. He's like, oh man, I took that really awesome memory. And the giver is like, don't worry, I have plenty more of snow, of sled, of those kind of things. So, enjoy that one. But then the giver wants to do another one to give it a test. So he's like, we're not going to do snow anymore. Oh, sorry. And then here he talks about the sameness of climate control. And he gives another test, and he says, I want to see if you know the word that I'm going to share the memory of. Because Jonas has never used this word before, and it's really funny. He's like, I want to see if you can tell what it is. So the giver gives him this memory of sunshine, which is, what? Sunshine? And for some reason, we don't know exactly what it's like, but for Jonas and his community, they don't even have things like sunshine because of some kind of climate control that makes the temperature and weather, almost the same every day. There might be days for like rain and stuff like that, but there's something that just keeps it the same. And Jonas is kind of wondering like, well, why don't we have these things? And the giver talks about how snow made it hard to grow crops. Hills made it hard to transport things, and so they just made everything the same to make things much more efficient. The giver gives him one last memory because Jonas is like, well, I thought there was going to be pain, but this is wonderful. And the giver's like, well, let me give you an example of pain. And then Jonas, just for 2 minutes, feels like it's 4 hours of just enjoying the sunlight, and then suddenly moves his his whole body is covered with a sunburn, and if you've ever had a sunburn, it hurts. He comes out of the memory and says, oh, that hurt. Now I understand that even the pain of these memories, like a sunburn, hurts. And then, of course, at the end, the giver, which we finally learn his name, he's tired. He's like, okay, we're done for today. I'm exhausted. And then Jonah says, well, what should I call you? If I'm the receiver now, what should I call you? And he says, you can call me the giver. And of course, that is the title of our book, The Giver. Vocabulary. A few vocabulary words. First one is pinprick. And if you imagine, if I have a needle and if I go, bink, ow, we call that a pinprick. Maybe sometimes in your shoe, a little pine needle will get in there, or a piece of wood, different things, and you'll be walking and then you'll feel this bink, bink, this small pinprick. It's not, it's not really strong. It's just this light little touch. And you can imagine like a drop of snow, that immediate cold feeling you feel in just that small area could feel like a pinprick. Poised. This is positioned. So if you imagine the top of the hill, the sled is poised right at the edge, positioned right at the edge to go down. Exhilaration is that excitement, that kind of energy, that joy, that happiness of like a roller coaster. Yeah! Oh, man. Man, that's how Jonas felt going down the snow on the hill. Obstruction is like barrier or wall or kind of problem for movement. And if we have a hill obstructs a truck's ability to climb quickly or has to use more fuel. Same with a bus, right? Or a mountain. Those things are obstructions. They cause barriers, or they can even block sight. Obsolete means has no purpose, has no value. So things like snow, sunshine, hills were considered obsolete. We no longer need this. It doesn't have any value, and they were deleted. So unfortunate. Oh, the last one here, basking. And basking is a really interesting word. It's this feeling of like soaking in, okay? Maybe wintertime, all right? You're in your house all day, probably for several days out of the year, right, out of the month, and finally spring starts to come out. And for the first time, you kind of go outside and you're not like running really fast, but you just kind of go out and you just feel the sun. You just stop and you just feel the sunlight coming into your skin. And we call that basking. We can bask in glory. If you imagine doing an amazing performance on the piano or instrument or singing, and then everyone's like, yeah! And you just sit there and you say, yeah, I did it. And you bask in this glory, in this honor. And that's another kind of way we use it. But in this case, basking in the sun. And many creatures like lizards, even insects, they will go to the sunlight and just rest in the sunlight and kind of get energy and warmth from it. And that's what Jonas was doing in the third memory. Discussion question I have for you. What memory would you share first? Okay, imagine your own memories, if you want, and you were going to give that memory to someone. How would you start? They don't even know what this is going to look like, how it's going to feel. What memory would you give? Or if you just thought like in the world, some really good memories or nice memories, what do you think is a good first memory to give someone? The giver chose snow, right? The second one, sunshine, and the third, sunburn. What would be the first memory you would give? Of course, please make your own discussion question. That is all the time that we have for today. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you have any questions about the video today, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. If you had any other vocabulary words that you wanted to know what they meant, let me know. And also, if you're interested in maybe joining one of these book clubs, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.